Hello, and welcome to Association Transformation. Welcome back to our focused and unique conversation exploring and advancing the impact and evolution of nonprofit organizations. All shapes, all sizes, membership associations, professional societies, trade associations. We are always seeking a diversity of thought and new examples, really, of innovation in action, especially now with all that we've learned over the last 18 months, 24 months, as the world has changed and turned on its head. So many new conversations, so many important conversations. And I'm excited to have with me for today's conversation, Mr. Andrew Chamberlain of Consort Strategy. Good morning, Andrew. Good afternoon. Good evening, wherever you are these days.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere in the world. I mean, you were already necking gin and tonic when we started this recording. So, how are you?
It's medicinal. It's medicinal, you jerk. Elisa Pratt, Brewer Pratt Solutions, here co-hosting with you. Thanks for having me back, I guess, to our joint conversation here. But we're taking a new perspective today. I'm excited about the guest, the friend that you found, and the guest that you've brought to the table. This is a new perspective. We haven't taken the volunteer leader perspective that often. I'm excited.
Yeah, we haven't, have we? And I thought maybe you were surprised that I'd actually found somebody.
Well, that too. That was a subtle jab.
Yeah,
I'm glad you picked up on that. Thank you for finally finding a guest.
No, that's not true. That's not fair. I think I found one episode like 3 or something. 40 episodes ago, I think I found a guest once.
It's all right. We know, but based on social media, how many friends you have. This is not shocking.
Right? Don't start with that again. You know, it cuts to my quick when you start talking about that. Right. So yeah, we're talking about governance, and you're right. This is actually, I think this is one of the only a handful of times we've had a volunteer leader join us to talk about nonprofit leadership, strategy, and governance. I'm very, very pleased to introduce. I'm delighted, in fact, to introduce. I was going to say Leanne Antoine, who is joining us as a new council member of the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy. But I'm going to change the introduction because I'm just looking at her LinkedIn profile, and she's actually a Forbes featured chartered physiotherapist. Now, come on.
Do we have a drum roll?
Forbes
Andy, do we have a
magazine.
drum roll sound effect for that?
We got to put something over that, haven't we? Forbes magazine. My God, I can't even afford to buy Forbes magazine. That's how impressive it is. Hi, Leanne. How are you?
Hi, I am good, thanks. Such a warm welcome to the show.
Oh, if only you knew. If only you knew. It's all downhill from here.
From here.
Lower your expectations immediately, please.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I first met Leanne a few months ago. We were on a governance training course together, and I was so excited to meet somebody.
Wait a minute, did she survive one of your? Did she survive one of your courses? Is she a survivor?
Survived. She thrived. I don't think it's any coincidence that when I first met Leanne, she wasn't a council member of the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy. By the next time I'd met her, she was on the board. I don't think that's any coincidence. I'm just saying.
Had she not met Forbes yet either? I mean, have you changed her life completely?
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to change her LinkedIn profile. I'm going to make sure she's got, consort graduate is what I'm going to put down there. Yeah. Anyway, I met somebody. I was blown away by Leanne's energy and enthusiasm. Stop, babe. Stop mocking me. Stop. I'm being serious. I know that, governance is my thing, but I'm really excited because Leanne gets it. Blew me away how engaged you are, Leanne, in the whole governance piece. Your ideas around what modern corporate governance should look like, not just in a non-profit world, but just generally, your ideas were fantastic, and I loved it. And so just explain to Elisa for me, as a kind of as an opening gambit, how much I inspired you that first session.
Stop, please. Leanne, throw that script he sent you away. Throw it away. You do not have to read from the talking points Andrew gave you. But no, sir, I'm interested. What's this perspective? I'm interested to hear how you came to be so enamored with governance.
I was actually going to say, first of all, that the course, which was obviously led by Andy, I was that person who was constantly raising my hand. I had something to say all the time. you know, and initially I think it was probably annoying him. But the more we went through the course, he realized, look, I can't avoid this teacher's pet here. So I may as well build a relationship with her instead.
Yeah. Let me punish her by bringing her on my podcast.
Yeah.
Do you know, I'm so glad that you recognised it. I'm so glad that I haven't had to explain it to you, because like that mature student who always sits at the front row of lectures in university, you know. Oh my God, yeah.
Call a spade, right?
Exactly.
I think one of the things for me about governance, I guess, that I find so interesting, and I explained this at the time, it's not so much about governance as it is about the people, you know? So the concepts of what it is that we're looking at or trying to achieve within our businesses or our establishments, whatever it is, you have to take care of the people. And if you're not taking care of the people, you will not get the results, you will not get the outcomes that you are striving for. So first and foremost is, you know, how are we taking care of the people that work for us? How are we then taking care of the people that are then the service users? And we must know who those people are so that we can cater to their need. And I think because of how I perceive that, for me, that's where my passion for governance comes from. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, you know, it's funny. You saying it that way has helped me make a connection really between member engagement and governance. They're not that far apart when you put it in that perspective. Taking care of people, meeting their needs, listening to them. I mean, in that sense, governance and member service, and maybe that's where servant leaders find their balance in between between the membership and the organization comes that governance and servant leadership. I don't know, harmony. Is that the right?
Well, yeah, I think if you're looking at some of the topics that make up governance, you know, risk, for example, if every time a patient is coming in to your service, your establishment, and you know that you've ticked the boxes that manage risk, clinical safety, there's trust that you are immediately building. And that's the trust that the patient or whoever it is that's using your services has in you and the service that you provide. But you are also able to operate knowing that you are providing a safe environment. You know, there's no challenge, there's no question about what it is that you're doing for that. I'm saying patients because I treat patients. And I think that when you start to then look at these different components that make up the governance, there is very little differentiation between that and managing the expectations of the people who are using your services. Very little difference. If I am happy at work because I know that the workplace is providing me with what I need, I know that I can treat the people I'm looking after in the best light. If they have any questions about anything, I know that I can provide them with the answers and we continue on. When I can't provide the answers, when I don't know the figures, the expectations of the company, when I don't know the trajectory of the business, when I've got no idea about, you know, what the plans are, I'm working a little bit wondering whether, well, hold on, I don't know this. And does, you know, when you work for a big corporate, does that big corporate know you? You know? So I think it's about bringing this down to a level that meets, you know, me at your eye level and you at my eye level, you know?
All right. I like that framing of it. I like that. And obviously it's gotten you to, you know, you're now in a place on the council where you can live out this governance. How did that come about, and what did onboarding look like for you as a new council member?
Well, that's quite a hearty question, or a couple of questions that you've asked me. So if we address the how am I here, first of all, so I've been qualified now for 15 years. I have worked in quite a few different, you know, I've worked in the NHS, I've worked for private hospitals, I now have my own studio. But I found myself, you know, on quite a few occasions in places where I wasn't getting the recognition for the work I did. I wasn't being paid for the work I was doing. I wasn't getting the promotions. I couldn't get paid over a certain amount of money. I was constantly having to educate myself to try and put myself in a better light, proving that I was this good therapist that I said I was. And I realized after a while that none of that was helping me in terms of my career progression. I could have done everything and it still wasn't going to get me the promotion, but I would still be doing the work. And after a period of time, I thought, I'm actually not going to leave my destiny in those people's hands anymore. Whether they are aware of their own biases or not was something I wasn't even questioning at the time. But there was something about the fact that I just could not progress in my career. Despite my passion and my enthusiasm, I'd just come to this standstill, So I've had my business now for the last 6 years. And some of that was about me being able to nurture people in a way that I wanted them to be nurtured, but also for me to be able to be in a position that I could nurture myself, my own passions. I could harness things that when I was working for someone, I just didn't get to do because I felt like I was looking after their dreams and their goals and not my dreams and my goals, my visions. So this is how I then end up, working for myself and then driving a business that I feel is very, very member-led and engaged, and doing all of these things, I would say behind the scenes. I'm just trying to make a living, right? But doing something that I'm passionate about. But the Charter Society of Physiotherapy has 62,000 physiotherapists on board. 1,100 of those are Black. For those that are listening, I am a Black female physiotherapist. Very much a minority in the profession that I'm in. And over time, I started to realize that I was becoming visible because of that. So I was visible to the Black female physiotherapist, but I was also visible to the broader, audience because of the things I was doing, which very heavily educational marketing based on social media. So if people want to check me out on social media, it's Distinct Physio or Distinct Physiotherapy. But this started to give me quite a lot of visibility. And then I think that my move into going onto the council was so much more about, like, the world is transitioning, evolving, as you mentioned at the start, Alyssa. And sometimes I think you have to look at where you are positioned at the time of that transition as to whether you should be doing more to be a part of the world that you want to see, So I cannot complain about the low numbers if I'm not in a position that helps me to change or influence those numbers, and being a Black woman on a board that has been predominantly Caucasian for some time is a start. But that's all it is. It's a start. I am one part of a very big cogwheel. Like, this is massive. And I understand, like, historically, I know what this means, but it's such a small thing, but it's so big at the same time. And it's almost difficult to contextualize it because in some respects, when I tell my family, oh, this is the position that I got. Oh, well done. We don't celebrate it. We're acknowledging it, but it's not anything greater than, oh, okay, you did that. Fantastic. Almost like you should be doing that, But then I will have the conversation, I say with my godmother, who is a Caucasian lady, and she's like, we need to book a dinner. We need to book a meal. We need to celebrate this achievement, right? And I think that over time, this perception for Black people being at board level, being in positions of, I'm going to use the word power, over time, this has to grow, even just to be representative of the society that we're currently living in. In the UK, Black people make up 3% of the population. The percentage of Black people within physiotherapy is only 1.77%. We're continuing to fall short. And this is within just my profession alone. But this is worldwide. This is not just here in the UK. So me taking up this position is is a start, a very small start to change. And then my onboarding is something that I'm going through at the moment. So I'm about to be onboarded officially by the end of this month.
Oh, okay. Now, hearing I would say the responsibility that you feel to make use of this position, the perspective, there's a weight to it, right? But you're coming to the table with a perspective, with a mission of your own. Does that inspire the other council members? Do they feel it? Do you share with them the journey and how you think about the position that you're in? Does it elevate their responsibility, or do you keep it to yourself?
It's funny, isn't it? Because by nature, I would say everyone thinks I'm an extrovert, but by nature, I think I'm an introvert. So there are lots of things that, conversation-wise, I probably had in the last year and a half, that have made me have to come out of my shell about certain things that I would ordinarily keep quite private. But in discussing certain things, this is how we generate allies, isn't it? No man is an island. And I'm very, very conscious that I don't get to change the journey on my own. I don't get to change the path or the direction of this story by thinking that I can do it myself. I'm told that my energy is infectious and that people are hugely motivated and inspired by the work that I'm doing. But I think that the work that I'm doing is just the work that I'm here to do. So the responsibility is not maybe as you would class responsibility, Alyssa, because I think that it's like having a duty of care.
Oh, look at you dropping words from the tree. Good job, Andrew. You do have an A+ student here.
What can I say? Honestly, I've not been saying very much in the last 5 minutes because I've been holding my breath to see if she lets me down or not, and she's not.
Stop it.
I think it's interesting, because and this, when we last spoke, I remember us having this conversation around, the fact that you were joining the board, you are a black woman, and it's a fine line, isn't it? It's a fine line between, because what we don't want to happen, we absolutely cannot let happen, is for you to be the black voice on the board, or for you to be the voice of only black women physiotherapists. It's like, that's, it's a fine line between, having that responsibility and wielding influence, and then tipping into sort of tokenism, and we don't want that to happen. And I think it's really important that other board members, and this goes back to, I think, your point there, Elise, about how do you empower, how do we empower other board members to recognise that actually growing the members, and diversifying and growing the membership across very many different from very many different backgrounds and professional characteristics, personal characteristics. It's everybody on the board's responsibility, and that actually diversity, equality, inclusivity is not some kind of token tick box exercise. It's got to be a cultural piece that the board in its entirety recognises and embraces. And it's not a concern I have about, obviously, the Chartered Society at all. But when I hear you talking, I do sit and think, yeah, but we got to make sure that you don't become just the voice of of black women or black people on the board. Does that, what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I always say that I do not speak for every black person. I don't. And I also recognise that every black person has had a different experience in life, like we all have, regardless of your skin colour or your religion or whatever. You've all had different experiences. So I don't ever speak as though I am representative of every black female, within physiotherapy or not. But what I do try to express are some of my own experiences that I know have impacted a lot of people. you know, and I can almost pretty much put my hand on my heart to know that that is the case. So when I'm speaking through, yes, my own experiences within physiotherapy, but then also the experiences of my friends and colleagues who have had experiences in different settings, you know, and us having similar conversations and knowing that the similarities may have been that we are people of colour. You know, we noticed that X wasn't having the issue when they were trying to get their promotion. They went for it once, we've had to go for it 3 times. You know, I've got an undergraduate degree, right, I'm going to do a master's and I'm going to see if that helps. And then I'm going to do a postgraduate course and I'm going to see, and constantly having to stretch ourselves in order to be equal to our peers. I think that, I mean, you say that you're not worried about the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy, Andrew, but some of that may well be because you don't know the, you know, the goings on of the society itself. And I do think that over time, we're definitely building a lot more allies. I think that the society they're trying to bring together, you know, better strategies, equality, diversity, and belonging strategies that are using the members' engagement to help them to build these strategies, these policies, so that they are more encompassing. I almost struggle a little bit as I say this to you, because I feel like a lot of the change that I think I want to see it's not happening now, and it's almost like in 30 years, you know, sadly to say. I listened to a chap called Paul Carrick-Brunson, and he's a real thought leader. In fact, I think he's on LinkedIn as one of the sort of first class people and does quite a lot of talks and things. And I listened to his podcast, and he was talking to some investors, some black investors in the UK, about the trajectory of change that George Floyd's death will mean for black people. And he again talks about this change happening in 30 years or so, but purely because this time is about laying down a foundation for change. And that has meant that in order to lay that foundation of change, we're having to change the narratives that people currently believe or see about black people. You know, how are we seen on TV? How are we portrayed? How does the news talk about us? Who are the role models? If black people are in trouble, what did they do? You know, and it's all of that is literally being unpicked now in 2021, you know? And in order for the people to receive this has to be like a seed, planted, sown, reaped constantly in order for people to then change the narrative. We must not forget that some people are very, very set in their ways, you know, and they're in their 20s and 30s. You know, so, and these are the people that are coming through to be on boards, you know, committee boards and levels, and the black person is still waiting for the Caucasian person to open the door of opportunity for them to be at those levels. That's the truth.
Well, yeah, I think about what you said, something so, you know, this is in its detail and its experience of your life, you know, this is a small thing, but it's so huge. And as I extrapolate the experience that you're having and your journey across what so many boards and councils and nonprofits are capable of in the sense of contributing to this foundation of change. I mean, Andrew and I work with boards all the time that are nowhere near aware, capable, ready, you know, and it's, I mean, yes, you're the dream council member with the energy and the experience and the willingness to bring your own story to the table, but also see beyond yourself. And I hope organizations in every corner of the nonprofit world recognize that the boards, your councils are the point of this spear.
I think you know I would agree with that. I absolutely would agree with that, at least. But I think, you know, one of the things that, and it's only again now as Leanne's been talking, have I sort of been sort of verbalizing, as it were, my own narrative around what it is that when I first met Leanne and heard that energy, that infectious energy, what is it that I'm hearing that made it stand out? Because look, you can be excited and energetic about governance, and you just be talking about risk management and finance. You can, it's you can really focus on the, dare I say, the real perfunctory dull stuff if you want to, and you can still be really energetic and enthused and be focused on your fiduciary responsibilities, and that's all well and good, and I encourage it. But I think what I'm realizing is that one of the things I'm very vocal about is the kind of the civic role that membership organisations can play. I would argue have now as we approach the quarter mark on the 21st century, have a responsibility to in lieu of many other types of community organisations, have a responsibility as civic leadership roles. And for me, as you've been talking, I realise that what you're putting language around the whole concept of ESG, so environmental and social corporate governance, which a lot of people are talking about. Great, a lot of big corporates are talking about ESG. They're tending still to be talking about it in that net zero, carbon, physical environment terms, not the social elements of it. And I realise as you're talking that what you want to achieve, in my opinion, and you can tell me, by all means, you can tell me, and I know you will if I'm wrong, but it sounds a lot. You are actually talking about the S in ESG. This is the social focus, and you're recognizing. It seems to me that you're recognizing the impact that the society can have, but that actually, as Elisa says, in that society to have that impact has to have that spearhead at the very, very forefront of to sort of guide change and to allow the society to enact change, recognizing that we can't do everything for everybody everywhere all the time, but what we can do, to take your point, is to recognize where we fit within the structure, what impact and influence we can have within the system, and recognize how we can work together with other elements of the system to meet that civic responsibility. And I think that's what I've heard today. I don't know if that resonates with you, Leanne, if I'm or if I'm just talking, nonsense. By all means, tell me. But
No, I have a real passion for human behaviours. Like over time, that's kind of what I've realised about myself. So human behaviours and personal development, not just self-development, but personal development, for other people. But to draw on some of what you've said, firstly, and I was making notes as you were speaking, we are who we surround ourselves with. If I sit on a board and everybody looks like me and we all talk the same and we all come from the same background, there is no diversity of thought there because we all think the same. And we are all then catering to one need, one way, because there's nobody there to challenge that. Yeah? Again, then drawing on some of what you said, is that if we don't have this diversity at board level, if we don't have this equality, we are then always shortchanging the minorities from an equity point of view. Always, and a massive part of this equality is also about equity, right? Now, if you contextualize this in terms of governance and in terms of the social component of ESG, if I am more equal, and catering to the people, there is going to be so much more behaviours that are normalised about what it is that we want to achieve from where we stand, right? Because now the conversations I'm having, they're immediately different. Yeah? Now, one of my drivers, my manifesto for being on the board is actually about getting physiotherapists of colour out into schools to talk about what we do, right? And not because I don't think that white physios can go out there and talk about what we do, but because I think the children need to see that there are physiotherapists of colour doing the job. If I don't know that it's out there for me, why will I try to achieve it? How do I know that it's accessible to me? Yeah. So again, this is about the seed, about planting the seed, but it's also about developing the social component of ESG. You know,
Well,
you know,
Absolutely.
as you said from the beginning, it's all about the people. It's
it's all
about
about the
people.
people.
And I love that idea of getting into the classrooms and changing the visual of what kids expect. And I just wonder, in your first year, your first 12 months of being a new council member, what else is on your to-do list? What are your other ambitions? Let's put it out there. Give the manifesto. Let's hear it.
Well, the main thing on the manifesto is actually around the schooling, because I passionately feel that if children are the future, as Whitney Houston's song, isn't it? I believe that children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way.
Yay! Oh, yay! Sing
right?
Yeah.
And I think that if we can normalize some of these things from very early on, I will not be, or somebody like me will not be having this conversation with you in 20 years' time. Because there will be no need. The reason why we have minority groups, LGBTQIA, BAME networks, the reason why we have these groups is because their voices alone are not enough. So these people have to come together as a collective to be heard. I want to see a time when those things are not needed, because things have been normalized. And that is the heart of my manifesto. I don't want to write that I'm a black female physiotherapist and recognizing that I am in the minority and I need to help to influence, inspire and motivate people who look like me, but also be an example to the other people who are also a wider part of that audience. I don't want to write that.
Right.
No.
Right.
You just want to write
I want to be...
Right. I want to be the best physiotherapist I can be. Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And it's funny, as I've seen especially, female leaders rise up through organizations and they say, oh, we want to bill you as the first female president. I don't want to be the first female president. I just want to be a female. I just want to be a president. And I so respect that. I'm excited. I think, Andrew, let's book this for 12 months from now. I want to see what Leanne has brought to the table, if she's fully recovered from your training session, and how she's brought these goals to life. And I think not just through your own work, but through what you're able to inspire in others, because we know you can't do this by yourself. This has to be about what the larger organization is capable of, and what this council chooses to make of the time and energy it has around that table. So we really thank you for joining us today and sharing with us your energy, your perspective, and putting out on the record your goals. We're excited to see where you take this. So thank you, Leanne. Thank you, Andrew, for your time today. And thank you to everyone for joining us for this podcast. We encourage you to find us wherever you get your podcasts. Association Transformation is available at all the popular spots. So make us one of your favorites and reach out to us with your goals. As a volunteer leader, as an association executive, what's your manifesto? I like that term. I'd be interested to put that challenge out to many people who call themselves change makers, who call themselves leaders and innovators. What the heck is your manifesto? What do you think and plan to accomplish over the next 12 months? Let's put some goals down and get serious about some of these things that we do a lot of talking about and not a lot of doing. So thank you again for joining us, and reach out with your ideas. You can reach us hello@yourconsort.com or tweet us at Association Transformation. And until next time, we say stay well and put your members and your mission first.
Association Transformation is brought to you in partnership between Consort Strategy and Brewer Pratt Solutions in support of the Institute of Association Leadership.